Less than 24 hours to go until the start of the road to WrestleMania. Royal Rumble is upon us, but we still got tonight's SmackDown to talk about here on the Dirt Sheet Radio Rewind.
Like, do we push him to the back or what? Because I don't want this hype to die down.
Now you're telling us the next week that they're scum of the earth, and we need you to think.
Everybody gets a moment. Everybody gets their little shine. Everybody.
CJ Carter here, as always, ready to talk SmackDown. I am flying solo this week, unfortunately, but for good reason. Sam Schluter, the Straight Shooter, and B. Ray Jones are actually in Florida for tomorrow's Royal Rumble. I believe they were in attendance for SmackDown tonight. I hope they had a great time. I wish them the best. I hope they have a lot of fun tomorrow night as well. But tonight, we still got to talk about SmackDown, and what a go-home show it was. With our main event tonight, LA Knight taking on Solo Sikoa. Obviously, we did have the interference with AJ Styles attacking LA Knight at the end of the match to mark the disqualification. Then, of course, you see the Bloodline get involved, and AJ Styles had earlier in the night seemed to strike a deal, potentially, not really, with the Bloodline in order to make sure that LA Knight didn't make it to the Royal Rumble, which, of course, we see AJ Styles turn on the Bloodline, or rather, not turn on, but just kind of not attack LA Knight instead. Then he goes on to fight Randy Orton, eats an RKO, and then just before the screen goes black, LA Knight comes in, hits Randy Orton with a BFT to close the show. Lots going on, lots to talk about with tonight's SmackDown. We have I think that was pretty much the gist of the main event. I love seeing your comments on the side here. I've never seen the stream from the admin side of things. I'm usually on my iPad, but yeah, I'm happy to be here with you guys tonight. So let's roll back up to the top of the show. We had our opening segment, Randy Orton coming out with and Eladio Carrion. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I think he was a Latin American singer, Grammy Award winner potentially. I believe they said at some point in the show, which he did a song about Randy Orton, or it was called RKO. I don't know. Honestly, I didn't pay much attention to that part. But then, of course, AJ Styles, LA Knight come out. The three of them end up talking about the Royal Rumble and their match. And then to end the segment, AJ Styles hits Randy Orton with a Pele kick. I thought it's weird for me to try to get invested with this match when it's just the challengers and not the champion, and the champion is still going to retain. Like, props on the challengers for selling this match, but we know how this is going to end. Roman Reigns is taking that title into WrestleMania. Whatever happens at Mania is still anybody's guess at this point, but we will have to wait and see what happens there. First match of the night, we had Santos Escobar taking on Carlito. You saw the sidekicks of Santos Escobar getting involved, Angel Garza and Humberto Carrillo. And then once, oh my gosh, I am blanking on her name right now. In Carlito's corner, Zelina Vega. Sorry, just completely blanked on Zelina Vega's name for some reason. So Zelina Vega is on the ring apron, and out comes Elektra Lopez to help Santos Escobar. Now, for those that may not know or follow the NXT product, when Legado del Fantasma was in NXT the first time, it was Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, Cruz del Toro, and Elektra Lopez as the original four. When the LWO was getting, or when Legado was getting called up to the main roster, Elektra Lopez was left down in NXT. Since then, she had been, most recently, she was in a team with Lola Vice that ended up splitting in the last couple of weeks. But for anyone that doesn't know who Elektra Lopez is, you're all caught up now. So she got involved in the match, and we end up seeing Santos Escobar get the win against Carlito. Very straightforward match. I think it feels to me like this feud has kind of run its course. Like, they did the 6-man tag. If it wasn't last week, it was a couple weeks ago. Now we had the one-on-one between Carlito and Escobar. So if they're gonna do anything else with this feud, they hopefully will have this dynamic going forward with Elektra Lopez being able to take on Zelina Vega. But short of that, I don't know what else they can really do with this feud, especially since LWO hasn't come out on top for essentially this entire feud. But I guess we'll have to wait, and see what happens. From there, we had a backstage segment. As I alluded to earlier, AJ Styles was approached by Jimmy Uso, who wanted to work together to take LA Knight out before the Royal Rumble. Styles didn't give a direct answer, but it was still very much a, hey, just consider it sort of thing. Then we see the Good Brothers and Michin approach Styles backstage. They wondered what it was about, and he just kind of blew them off. Which, I guess we're going to see this Good Brothers Styles split come, but it's at a weird time. You know, like, they want to push Styles as the heel main eventer heading into the Royal Rumble, which is fine. And it feels like they're going to extend the feud with LA Knight after the Royal Rumble. great. If that sets them up for a WrestleMania match, I'm all for it. Or even Perth. If they stuck them on the card in Elimination Chamber, I think that would be a great addition to the card. But then that still leaves us with this hanging thread of Styles and the Good Brothers and Michin. Obviously, it's going to wind up getting they're going to wind up going their separate ways. But it's still weird to try and fit that into everything else that Styles is doing right now, at least from my perspective. But we'll see how that shakes out after the Rumble. More backstage segments taking place after that. We had Bobby Lashley and Santos Escobar draw their Royal Rumble numbers, which, by the way, I love the fact that the tumbler returned. It's a small thing, but it was honestly a good gimmick. I thought, especially when I was growing up. Like, I remember, I think it was 2005, the Rumble, where Eddie Guerrero stole Ric Flair's number because Rick had drawn number 30 and Eddie drew it had to have been 1 or 2. And so of course, I'm getting on a tangent here, but Eddie ends up picking Flair's pocket, stealing his number, giving him his one, and then they had to basically strong arm Eddie into giving his number back. But it's a little thing. Like I said, I love little quirks like that in the TV presentation. R-Truth drew his number later on in the night, and he definitely didn't seem pleased. He also called Nick Aldis Mr. Pierce and complimented him on his ability to grow hair rather quickly, which unfortunately I can't relate. After that, we had the women's tag team titles on the line. The Kabuki Warriors taking on Caden Carter and Katana Chance, and we have new tag team champions. It felt kind of telegraphed with everything that has been going on with the Damage Control civil war that's going to be brewing heading into WrestleMania. And I knew they were going to win, but I feel like it sucks for me to, because I love Caden Carter and Katana Chance. They are a phenomenally talented team. I loved watching them in NXT. I wish they had a much better presentation on the main roster ever since they were called up. And even now, like, to win the tag team titles, great. But just to lose them a couple weeks later is unfortunate. I would have rather had seen them put the titles on, or just leave the titles on Chelsea Green and Piper Niven to drop to the Kabuki Warriors. And I mean, sure, it's a heel team, whatever. I don't know. I hope this gets better for them. I hope they end up finding their steam at some point. Obviously, this is a major bump in the road, but hopefully they're going to be able to bounce back. Some more backstage segments. We see Solo and Paul Heyman talking about their Solo's match tonight, and he says, "Fix the problem and don't be merciful," which, considering he gave that direction to Solo, really sets the tone for his match with LA Knight later. And then Heyman talks with Jimmy Uso about his needing to win the Royal Rumble so that he can challenge Seth Rollins for the World Heavyweight title and bring that championship into the bloodline as well. I know that's just kind of their way of announcing that Jimmy Uso is going to be in the Rumble, because he doesn't really stand a chance to win. There's no way. If they didn't have the main event scene that they have right now, especially with The Rock, Cody Rhodes, CM Punk, that's obviously your big title contenders heading into WrestleMania. We'll have to see how the Rumble plays out, and obviously into Elimination Chamber. We may not know until Australia who Seth Rollins' challenger is, if the Rumble winner decides to challenge Roman Reigns, or we may not find out that The Rock is going to challenge Roman Reigns right away. Who knows? We also see Bayley and Bianca Belair going into pick their Royal Rumble numbers. Bianca seemed to like her number, Bayley not so much. So we'll see what ends up happening at the Rumble. And then we get, for the third week in a row, we get a confrontation between the Final Testament and Lashley and the Street Profits. And again, for the third week in a row, it goes nowhere. The one thing that I will say about this segment is they finally gave Paul Ellering the microphone, which was awesome. And then they had Karrion Kross talk, which just undid the entire goodwill for me. I think they need to just let Paul Ellering steer the group and let Karrion Kross and AOP be Karrion Kross and AOP. That being said, I still don't care about Karrion Kross, but going into a feud with Lashley and the Street Profits, when Lashley is your mouthpiece, and unfortunately, he is not the guy that should be talking for that group. If it's between the three of them, I would say it should be, sorry. It should be, oh god, why am I blanking on his name now? I can't remember. Yes, Montez Ford. Thank you, Jared Garrett. You are my real time hero right now. Montez Ford. I couldn't even remember Angelo Dawkins' name either until I remembered the other one's name. God, I suck at this. Okay, so you have. Wait a minute. I haven't been talking into my microphone this entire time. This job is stressful. I props to Sam for being able to do it every single week. And like, I just have to come in and talk. I don't have to coordinate the show. I don't have to set anything up. Anyways, so we had, again, another confrontation that essentially went nowhere between Final Testament and Lashley and the Street Profits. If they don't get a different mouthpiece for Lashley's group, I don't see how I'm going to get invested on their side of the feud either. It's not that I don't believe that Lashley can hold his own or that the Profits don't have credibility either. It's solely the aspect of presentation. You have to have your best talker as the spokesperson for the group. If your presentation is lacking on the mic, then I'm going to tune out. That's just how I enjoy pro wrestling these days. So after that, we had Jimmy Uso draw his number. Again, another one that's not really a fan of the number that he drew, so I expect we'll see Jimmy Uso earlier in the Rumble match than later. We also got the rematch between Austin Theory and Carmelo Hayes. Now, a couple weeks ago, they had the match referee stoppage. If you didn't see it, honestly, don't go back and watch the replays, because the way the replay is shown on SmackDown, you see exactly how Theory's neck kind of got sandwiched between Carmelo Hayes and the ring. If you're squeamish, definitely don't look at it. But this was essentially just another opportunity for them to go out and have this match. Austin Theory got the pin with a pinfall where he was grabbing the tights. And then after the match, Theory and Grayson Waller start beating down on Hayes, and he is saved by Trick Williams. Now, this is interesting for a couple of reasons. One, if you haven't been following on NXT, first of all, why? Why not? Like, you have nothing better to do on a Tuesday night. Don't kid me. But secondly, their story heading into Stand and Deliver right now is likely going to be revealed that Carmelo Hayes attacked Trick Williams backstage, uh, setting up for a triple threat NXT Championship match at Stand and Deliver. Now, when Trick made the save and Mello kind of put out his fist for Trick, the interaction was very cold. And I didn't pick up exactly what he said, but it was something to the effect of, "I only saved you because we have a match on Tuesday," which they do. It's the semifinals of the Dusty Cup, so be sure to tune into NXT. But anyways, uh, it was interesting because it's finally an acknowledgement on SmackDown of what has actually been happening with Carmelo Hayes in NXT. I've mentioned it here on the show before. His presentation for being on SmackDown is so different than his presentation for being on NXT. And this was kind of the first glimpse that we actually see something's not right between Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams as presented on the main roster. That is huge and a step in, I think, the right direction. They should be acknowledging the SmackDown and Raw superstars going to NXT and actually expounding on what they're doing down there, if they want to get the most out of sending these stars down to NXT. Because if it's about viewership, then you need to hype that better on the main shows. So hopefully that's what they're doing. But we'll have to wait and see if it's a one and done thing, or if it's actually something that they're going to keep doing every week. So that is essentially the show. We covered a 2-hour show in about 20 minutes. So I figure today is a hell of a day in the wrestling news industry. If you're watching and were not aware, further developments to the accusations against Vince McMahon that dropped this week. As a response to those allegations, Vince McMahon has resigned. He is no longer with WWE, with TKO. He has no oversight or role there, period. This is coming, I think, probably most likely because of Slim Jim pulling their sponsorship. They had a Royal Rumble sponsorship that they announced was going to be paused, and they specifically said it's because of these Vince McMahon allegations. I have to really separate the artist from the art, and I have to say that similar comments of what Paul Heyman said about Chris Benoit, like if you want to appreciate him for what he did for the pro wrestling, and I'm paraphrasing here, but if you want to appreciate him for what he did for the wrestling business, great. As a human being, he is a piece of shit. And if he's your guy, you're a piece of shit. It's if this particular example was, and I saw people trying to defend Vince online, talking about how there's no way a CEO of a billion-dollar company would text like that, because they showed the screenshots of text messages. And people were trying to defend Vince, being like, "Oh, all these typos and shorthand, there's no way he would type like that." He was a 70-something-year-old man who I'm surprised even knew how to text at all. So for him to send those messages is not out of the realm of possibility at all. And it was the fact that nobody told him no and held him accountable. And I mean, some of her accounts were just horrifying to read. Like, if it was, I'm not gonna even delve into that territory, so I'm not gonna worry about trigger warnings or anything like that, but very harrowing stuff, and it sickened me to read that. I mentioned that to my dad because he's also a wrestling fan. He got me into wrestling when I was a kid, and he said they should throw him in prison. I said, throw him in prison, build a prison on top of that prison, and then just burn the whole thing down just to be safe. But it's a clear case, even if this particular instance is fabricated. Like Vince McMahon has said, these are lies. Okay, so let's play this out. This one person's particular account is a lie. This is still one of many that have come forward since last summer. So you want to try and say that this woman is a liar and discredit her, and you're going to have to discredit every other woman that has made this accusation, because at the end of the day, if this many women are coming forward, pretty safe to say they're not lying. Hashtag believe all women. But I think him stepping down was the right move. I think it was the right move when he stepped down the first time, and should have stayed away. If he had stayed away, maybe this maybe this new lawsuit wouldn't have even have happened. Hard to say. But the right decision was made, and hopefully this continues to be a situation that is done. Like, we can just wipe our hands of it and wipe our hands of Vince McMahon. I'm thinking he could probably take up an entire season of Dark Side of the Ring on his own. But that is a whole other can of worms. And I think we're going to call it a night here. I have had fun again talking about SmackDown on a weekly basis. Love seeing all the comments, and love seeing that we have a lot of good people in the Dirt Sheet Radio family. So, on behalf of my co-hosts who couldn't be here tonight, CJ Carter signing off for Dirt Sheet Radio. Take care.